Greetings friends. In this second part of the hidden origin of the rocks, we will analyze some incredible places where exists some evidence of giant petrified wood, cleanly cut, or broken, as if it were ancient monstrous trees. In the last video we analyzed the so-called sedimentary rocks and some of their types. How the water and alchemical processes of this world transform light and nutrients into matter, as well as the theories and stories related to the construction of all those impossible ancient monuments. Is it possible that all the rock in this world was wood in its origin? Why does rock look so much like tree bark? What force was the one that petrified and scattered this matter all over the world, and in such capricious positions? Let us remember that this world is in perpetual growth and expansion, as if it were a living creature. Lava and the inferior plane readjustment forces we currently call earthquakes, volcanoes, and the ancient rock types that emanate from them. All of this seen through ancient stories that we have forgotten through indoctrination. Let's start. Volcanoes are openings, or vertical channels in the Earth's crust, which are connected, for unknown reasons, to a liquid rock chamber, which is expelled from a conduit or chimney at its top. So, this liquid rock are expelled and deposited and solidified around it. But what these expelled materials really are, and is there a possibility that this material were also wood? Let us remember the main alchemical elements that compose rock, and how the loose earth and plants also belong to the same matter, to the same material that conforms the ground, the etheric realm of the earth. Let us remember how animated beings are composed by the four primordial elements. In the same way, this world is made up of those same main elements, and from which all the others derive, cause they are transmuted through the processes of generating alchemy. Then, where does the rock come from? This is the Japanese island named Aogashima. This island is a volcanic crater that effectively exploded, and the lava solidifies around, creating an island, and leaving a gigantic crater where a small town now sits. Can we think then that all the rock emerged from the ocean floor in liquid form, spilling from the center of a chimney? These rocks are commonly identified in geology as igneous rocks, formed by solidified magma, the molten rock of the lower kingdom. If cooling occurs slowly below the surface, rocks with large crystals are formed, called plutonic or intrusive rocks. While, if cooling occurs rapidly above the surface, for example, after a volcanic eruption, rocks with indistinguishable crystals are formed, known as diffusive or extrusive volcanic rocks. Most of the igneous rocks have formed under the surface of the Earth's crust, like the andesite, diorite, granite, rhyolite, porphyry, gabbro, and basalt, all being just names given by men to refer to the different alchemical compositions of the earth element created by this world. The reality is that there are many intelligent similarities in nature, which are logical and inherent, but, due to the indoctrination of modern thought, we tend not to see it. This is a skin rash, a bulge that occurs on the skin, and in the center, it has also a conduit, or chimney, from which a hot liquid emanates and solidifies as a protection. Same alchemical correspondences. We have already seen on the first part how this world moves and accommodates itself as if it were a living creature. It expands from the center, growing concentrically like the rings of a tree. Growing from that spot on which all compasses point. These are very old and forgotten legends that tell us about the tree of life, in whose stump the whole known world rests. Let us remember the Black Pyramid and the convergence point of this world. The expansion or growth of the world from that substance called lava, and how it reminds us the blood, in all its form and behavior, as an red-hot iron substance. Is it possible, then, that we are on a living being of colossal proportions, and that those ancient giant trees were new branches or extensions of that primordial colossal universal tree? Could we may think that the roots of this giant tree could have reached the inferior realm, creating passages from which the lava now flows through? According to Norse mythology, there is the Yggdrasil, the tree of life, whose roots and branches hold the different worlds together. So, where does the molten rock emanating from these sites come from? In the last video, we named the so-called theory of the expansion of the ocean floor, which we are told is a process in which new oceanic crust is created by this volcanic inferior realm activity, pushing the continents. In other words, lava, which is created by unproven processes and heats, somehow has enough force to displace all the rock continents, as if this world requires it, to grow and move. Let's see and detail how our veins also carries a hot red liquid which solidifies when it comes out. How they run through a body like tree veins, connecting and bringing nutrients and heat to every corner of the body. It is not such a crazy idea to think of lava as the blood of this world, or the rock as a protective crust. In this way, we can realize how the petrification processes of the wood could have originated all the mountains' broken tops. Some of them with such perfection, and with long vegetal fibers. Very similar to the fragments that we already saw in the previous part. So, is it possible that other mysterious process has been necessary to dry and transform the wood into rock? These rocky structures are called trovents. Rocks that grow with water, having concentric circles, as if it were a woody part of a giant tree. Could it be that these were seeds, or petrified fruits of dark ancient gigantic trees? But how is that these trees dried up to the point that they turned into rock? You have heard that in some videos they described as giant silicon trees. But why silicon? Well, basalt is a compound made of silicon. Also is the raw material for artificial intelligence, and is an impressive conductor of energy, as it is a type of crystal. Silicon, we are told, is a metalloid chemical element, located in group 14 of the periodic table of elements. It is the most abundant element in the Earth's crust. Crust, like tree crust, coarse silicon, constitutes about 40% of all common minerals, and more than 90% of the minerals that form volcanic rocks. In other words, lava is molten silicon rock. Quartz is a mineral of silica in all its varieties, such as amethyst, cornelian, jasper and chalcedony, the semi-precious crystalline forms of silicon existing in nature. Silicon dioxide is the main component in sand and glass, and has a special interest in the electronics and microelectronics industry as a basic material for the creation of chips and transistors, batteries, and electronic circuits. This is silica gel. Is a porous, granular form of silicon dioxide, manufactured synthetically from sodium silicate. Its high porosity makes it a very good water absorbent. For this reason, it is used to reduce humidity in closed spaces. Cause we currently dry things with heat or with absorption. Could it be that this substance has been exponentiated in some way to dry out these ancient trees? These giant trees served as nature's database, as memory, and panels for capturing etheric and solar energy for the regeneration and perpetual balance of this world. Sort of like the world's old power grid and software. This is where the term power plant originates. Trees are power generators and have a network of roots, or tubes, cables to exchange data. Our ancestors had the theory that trees were designed to conserve Akashic records. That is, the RAM memory of nature. In 1969, one of the first RAM memories based on silicon semiconductors was released by Intel, with 64 bits of memory. In these virtual silicon memories, you can record and read information, save and duplicate images, videos and sounds. Notice how the same alchemical principles are used with the same functions, just without the true knowledge and magnificence. They no longer allow us to know what everything that surrounds us really is, nor the magic that exists in nature processes. So, the question is, the ancient trees were made of silicon as if they were another species, or they were made of soft moldable wood, like they are now, and then underwent an extreme petrification process on the surface that caused wood to transform into basalt silicates. Could it be that the giant trees have been hardened by tremendous heat conditions derived from a catastrophic event of apocalyptic proportions? There are other types of very mysterious rocks, the so-called Metamorphic Rocks. Its name derives from the Greek meta and morphs, which means change of shape. It is known that this type of rock undergoes structural and mineralogical changes through heats and pressures below the earth, merging as if it were a giant forge. I explain it in more detail. To make a sword, it is necessary to heat the materials, mix them, and subject them to high pressures by striking it, and drastic or gradual variations in temperatures. Blacksmithing is also alchemy, since one material is purified to another through physical and chemical transformation phenomena. In the same way, this world works, transforming and originating different rocks with its alchemical cycles. Metamorphic rocks are the most mysterious, since many of their processes depend on unimaginable pressures and times, and of which we can only speculate. Metamorphic rocks may have been sedimentary, or igneous in their origins, and may have been turned into gemstones after a long period of time. Diamonds are a clear example of these ancient processes of petrification and purification of wood that give rise to extremely beautiful structures. In the same way, and just as lead could be transmuted into gold in ancient times by alchemy, diamonds now seek to be replicated artificially as well. This process consists of placing a piece of carbon in an excessively powerful microwave chamber, irradiating it, and bombarding it with methane, or another gas that contains carbon, and then superheating it for several weeks until it becomes a plasma ball. Another week in this way and crystallized particles will begin to form. Yellowish diamonds, with a very low purity, a process that seeks to be improved and perfected, since it is complicated and very expensive, dangerous and polluting, due to the large amount of microwaves required. Carbon is created in the same way from wood. When we understand that lava is also molten silicon, we can realize how a rock was once wood. Dead wood deposited on the ground, covered by thousands of tons of more waste wood, and extremely heats for a long time, and then subjected to very high pressures and movements that extruded and contracted them, merging them with other compounds, and transforming them into crystals with a greater or lesser proportion of silicon. All living beings and things are made of carbon, and for that reason, they could petrify with the correct alchemical processes. Carbon is the fundamental element of living matter, and therefore has a main role in the metabolic processes of this stratum where we develop. While silicon is an element that we could not create, it had to be forcibly extracted or purify with alchemical processes, but only from nature elements. Something impressive about these semiconductors like carbon and silicon is that both can be combined. They are alchemically compatible, with carbon serving as the backbone for silicon. So many scientists dare to think that it may be a possible human evolution. However, knowing the ancient Scandinavian stories, we can realize that all this had already happened in ancient times. The ancient gods whose remains are fused and combined with silicon. Viking mythology offers a very complete creation myth, whose legends tell us about the world as parts of a body similar to a tree, whose branches extend to shape the different kingdoms. These trees were destroyed during an apocalyptic event known as the Ragnarok, being later restored by the god Odin. We can then notice the tremendous similarities between all the ancient mythological stories, such as the Ramayana, of which we already spoke, and many other Hindu legends, and of different cultures, that tell us about a giant energetic tree, as the base from which this world grows and expands. Capturing the Ram energy record, where an imprint of every energy event that has occurred in the world is kept in detail. A kind of etheric imprint of each extracted and contracted energy line. All coincidences have an alchemical correspondence, hidden from the simple sight. Vegetable fibers, and their correspondence with what we observe in the oldest rocks. All this cannot be a coincidence. The compositions of the materials, and their purifications. All the impossible structures that seem to have been made when all of it was soft wood. With this world purifying everything. How wood is purified and transformed by this world through alchemy to create the different layers and elements of silicon or carbon. Storing an imprint of the energy lines used as if it were a photograph. Thus, in the composition of carbon and silicon, we can understand that all rock was once wood. As the alchemical processes of heat and pressure that occur in the lower kingdom give rise to the extrusion and contraction movements of matter, to the creation of matter and its readjustment and accommodation. Referring to the conception of this world as a living being of colossal proportions. Silicon, and how silicon-based RAM memories can capture and store memories by capturing light. photographs are also alchemy. Research how a camera can capture a vivid piece of the reality we live in. We must wake up to all these lies that hide us, and that knowing them makes us revalue everything that this world is. Its absolute correspondence with the alchemical laws. The tremendous similarities between our skin and the layers of the earth. The red and hot liquids that solidify when they come out, as a protection. And for carry nutrients and energy throughout the system. This knowledge is so inherent, and, at the same time, so complex, that it is extremely difficult to understand. There are many coincidences in nature and in this world that would overwhelm us to the point of going crazy. Why is that the volcanoes are so similar to the skin eruption? Even the name are so similar. Eruption. Of lava or fluids that hardened when they came out. Those are incredible similarities that are not a coincidence. Those are the proofs of the correspondences between the world and their beings. The trees and the similarities with the broken stumps. Let's see some examples of this and the constructions we find on those stumps, now called mountain peaks. How could they do this on that vertical rock face? Or this one? These are only the most old and broken, made in one piece and without apparent effort. Like if they were petrified at the same time. Broken, maybe with an explosion of some kind. That's why we found pieces scattered without an apparent order. Cause they were part of that wood structures carved in ancient past. It is time to wake up. Time to know secrets that your soul is already open to. It is time for us to get aware with the soul, so that we see the inherent truth beyond the banal processes of diabolical materialism. Symbol is what unites us, and diabolo is what separates us. Let us understand how nature is here to unite us, in counterpart of what is instilled by this society, which seeks to destroy each other in this world for simple papers. Let's understand that this society wants you to destroy yourself and never find your true essence. For us to loosen the egoism and greed. It is time to educate for the future, so that children can see the majesty embedded in all things, all that have been created for them, for all of us, and for all life. Magic is out there for those who can truly see it. Let's share these videos with the most awake, and take them turn towards wisdom and light. Let us propose hope and knowledge. The darkness is not fought, it lights up. We speak the truth, and we will be heard. You just have to wake up from the great deception. The system does not work. Time to get out. Reactive Factory Project.